Hi, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the previous session. So just want to let you know, our speakers will answer any questions in real time. So please do post your questions through the Q&A widget to get engaged. So now we're going to talk about the value of combining unknown and known customer journeys to drive personalized customer growth at scale. We have a Chris live stage as CEO at QueryClick. Chris started delivering websites to business on floppy disks, as most of companies by the time buying websites did not have any internet. We also have Bruce Swan, Senior Director Product Marketing from Cheetah Digital. Bruce has always worked from home with his family in Bozeman, Montana. So let's guess what time is over there. And also he cannot wait to get out and about and get on the airplane again and interact with the people face to face. Here we go, Chris and Bruce, take the stage away.
Thank you, Ivy. So right up top, I'd like to just throw a poll out to the audience. So hopefully you'll see that as a pop-up asking about how many touch points you think your customers have with your marketing material. Now, while you're answering that, Bruce and I are going to cover different aspects of the two different systems we're talking about today, which are joined together by the fact that customers engage with content across both of them. The way that we phrase that is thinking about the known customer data, it's data you find in CRMs or CDPs, and the unknown customer data. It's the data that exists and is being tracked in digital marketing, particularly before people become customers and when they're not logged in. I want to talk about how that joining is done. Attribution is ultimately the technology and the science that we're trying to apply. Attribution itself is very important. We can see here that since 2011, when most of the digital marketing activity represented in that red bar was on search result pages, principally Google. Today, we now have a much more complex ecosystem where we have large digital marketing spends across multiple different platforms with their own methods of measurement. So most importantly, we have Facebook in there taking larger and larger share. We have players like Amazon, and we have large volumes of dynamic display being bought programmatically. And those systems ultimately are generating a few headaches for marketers. Very briefly, at QueryClick, 7 years ago, we started addressing this problem. And we last year ran a census-wide survey to understand how many of 200 surveyed marketers who were making tactical decisions on the ground with more than £100 million of spend available to spend, how much they were able to make use of attribution, and the answer was very little. The surprising cause of that we found was that there is very large gaps in data quality coming in at the analytics level. So principally Google Analytics and Adobe Analytics are providing data that is not really fit for purpose for attribution and for the representation of customers behind the devices that those attribution platforms are tracking. We took a different approach. So 7 years ago, when we started developing our platform, Corvidae, we started using machine learning in SaaS deployments in the cloud, fed enterprise data from our large enterprise customers into it, and started developing a different way to look at that data being fed back by analytics platform. It's a machine learning process. It's completely rebuilding the attribution data. And what that gives us is data that joins sessions much more accurately than you find in Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics. You can see that represented in a chart here. This is data from a case study piece that's downloadable from our website. Work we did with Tesco, the largest online retailer in the UK. This is a day in the life of Tesco and their website. And you can see here that the volume of data that's suitable for attribution, which represents, non-broken sessions and sessions that are joined together accurately and are being returned in the right channel source. That is very low in Google Analytics 360. In fact, about 80% of the data in that system was not fit for purpose for attribution. And so this is the reason why we felt we needed a different approach to attribution. We needed to take predictive modeling and use that to rebuild and restitch those sessions together. And that's what we're doing today. For marketers, what do we care about? And particularly in our MarTech stacks, well, we'll have totally different revenues as the first outcome. So this is just simply looking at channel attribution for that same day in the life. You can see that there are wildly different revenues coming from different sources, and the decisions you would make as a marketer are going to be radically different. We also took another step beyond that rebuilding process, and we've spent the last 2 years working in collaboration with the largest data science and informatics team in EMEA, so based out of Edinburgh University. And we have built, using a neural network approach, a new approach to attribution, which we call visit level attribution. And what that ultimately means is we can map that rebuilt data that's being collected by Google Analytics and Adobe Analytics and being repaired, so repairing that broken 80% of data, feed it into this new neural network approach, and we can get attribution for every single individual that's identified in the data across any marketing channel for which data is supplied. And that means that we can then aggregate that data together, and we can show really true, accurate, attributed return on advertising spend measurement for campaign level activity in different performance marketing channels. So that would be paid social, paid search, and programmatic principally. And you get radically different results. There's some snapshots here of a paid search account and how different the revenue is. Those yellow arrows highlight the difference in revenue for different campaign groups. On the right-hand side, that middle campaign set is broken out to individual campaigns. And you can see there's another result there, which is that actually the ad tech, in this case Google Ads, is doing a very poor job of reporting on its own tag data, which is a surprising result that we see time and again. So if you really want accuracy down to the campaign level, for the unknown customer, when you're trying to bring them into your systems, this approach, this process is really proven to be essential. In terms of delivering all of that, we have a pure Azure deployment for our platform Corvidae. We can tag alongside existing tags or simply ingest what's already there. We rebuild it. We unify different data sources so we can unbundle and bring into our data set the likes of Facebook and YouTube by mapping them into that visit level attribution. Then we make that available as a RESTful API or through our front end. So think of that, before I hand over to Bruce, as understanding the customer before they come in, before they move into a system where you have a closer, better ID associated against them that you can start taking action with. Bruce?
Yeah, Chris, thank you. And what I'll do is just pick up the conversation from when the customer is known or has made their first purchase or has opted in, and talk about the importance of continuing to learn more about that customer so you as a marketer can engage even better with your customers across the channels in which they engage. And the best way to think of how to drive engagement is to have a personalized conversation with them with meaningful content and messages that feel a part of a conversation. And we all know that customers use multiple touch points to engage with your brand. So it would behoove you and make sense for you to engage with them in those touch points in a consistent manner. And there's certainly value in doing so, in that, cross-channel visitors tend to purchase more and tend to be more engaged. So there's definitely value in driving that kind of engagement. And the notion of engagement isn't anything that's new to a marketer, whether it was years ago when it was just direct mail and email, or fast forward to today where you throw in mobile channels and social media and so forth. The objective is to still engage, but what has changed is consumer behavior. And here are just some fun statistics and research that you could think about as you go through this content and as you go through the day, where consumers use at least 6 touch points to engage with a brand. They spend an awful lot of time consuming online media. And in this year of 2020, that number has probably gone up even more, as has the number of times we check our phones on a daily basis, or how consumers multitask. And really what this is reflective of is it's a challenge for a marketer. We know we need to engage, but it can be difficult when there are all these different touch points to consider, the considerations around consumers or customers being distracted, or many different ways to engage. So you have to think as a marketer, how do you rise above that noise and drive proper engagement? And in the end, what consumers do expect is, regardless if it's 2 or 3 or 6 or 10 different touch points, they expect a seamless experience. Every time they engage with your brand, they expect to be known and understood, but at the same time, they want their privacy respected. And that's often a very delicate balance for a marketer, to where they want to engage with personalized and meaningful content every time the customer interacts. But how do they do it in a way to where it adds value, to where it's not creepy, to where it's showing that privacy is being respected? And again, it's often a tricky balance for a marketer to find if they don't have the right data points on a customer. And then certainly what's also changed this year are consumer priorities. And this is some very recent research that a Forrester analyst named Shar Van Boskirk shared at a Cheetah Digital customer event a couple weeks ago. Feel free to use your phone, snap the QR code to access this content. But in this presentation, she talks about how customer priorities have changed, where, looking ahead, 50% will avoid crowds, will spend less time in stores, will certainly spend more time at home. And what this is reflective of is this huge shift to digital. And what's interesting is we might not go back to the way things were, to where now that there's this shift to digital and people expect goods and items to be delivered to their doorstep or pick up in store and so forth, they're going to expect that ongoing in years to come. So you need to think through that in your engagement strategies. And if you want to learn more, again, feel free to access this research. But what's powerful is this notion of gathering what's called zero-party data, which it sounds like a buzzword. In reality, it is. But Forrester has a good definition for it, and that zero-party data is data that a customer or consumer proactively and intentionally shares. And as a marketer, that should be part of your plan, because let's face it, what you knew about a customer 8 months ago, early on in 2020, certainly has changed, or what you might have known about them even as recently as 2 to 3 months ago has certainly changed at all. And again, gathering this type of data, it's not new. It's always something that marketers have done through surveys or forms or or applications. But digital made it a lot easier in recent years. However, with legislation like GDPR or restrictions on browsers and so forth, it's just that much more difficult to gather this type of zero-party data. So you have to have a plan to do so. And there are many different opportunities for you in your brand to gather that zero-party data. Again, where the value is you're getting your customers to provide you with meaningful data and insights. And this is just an example of a customer journey that reads left to right, where along the way in that journey, there are marketing moments where there's emails that are sent, there's content on the website that's personalized, there are direct mail pieces that go out, there are messages that get pushed to a mobile app, and there are also those moments in the gray bubbles that are customer initiated moments where they log into the website or step up to a kiosk or make a visit to a store. But often what you need to do as a marketer is connect the dots. And so those yellow bubbles are ways where you could deploy experiences along the way in that customer journey, where you're gathering information and insights into customer behavior down to that one-to-one level, where it could be like I did earlier, having a QR code where somebody could take a photo or snap the QR code and end up on a site where they provide information, or a survey after a purchase, or games and quizzes and polls like we're using in this presentation are all ways that you should think through how you can gather that zero-party data and append it to that customer profile, where you can apply analytics and deploy meaningful, personalized, excuse me, omni-channel strategies. And what I'll do is just quickly share some examples of how zero-party data can be gathered. And these are real-life examples that some of our customers have deployed. And I'll go left to right kind of quickly across this screen. On the left-hand side, it was a campaign from an airline where they were simply asking for passenger preferences, to where they would touch on their meal, on favorite type of meal on the screen, or favorite type of entertainment, and so forth. And it seems simple, but it's fantastic data that could go into a customer's profile that a marketer could use for downstream personalization. Or in the middle, this is a screenshot of a campaign from Shell where they wanted to include an instant win campaign to keep customers excited and engaged. And ways you can deploy these experiences could be fun and interactive, to where it's on a mobile device, where the idea in this case, it's a scratch off ticket, to where it gets them engaged using the mobile device, feeling emotionally connected to the experience, but it's also insight that you as a marketer are able to gain. And then on the right is an example from Starwood Hotels, where they created a social path from Instagram to its website by embedding different calls to action directly into influencer content. And all of these examples yielded fantastic results, where they were able to gather opt-ins, to where they were able to append important customer data to customer information, so they could engage even that much better with customers. And then a couple other examples, and these are fun sports examples, where on the left, a football club drove fan engagement with an interactive squad builder, to where a fan could build out their own lineup of players, or who they think should be in the lineup. And if you think about it, it's fun for the fan to be able to do that, but it's also a pretty cool insight for the marketer to be able to gather, because it gives insight into popular players, both at a high level, but also at the fan level, which can be used to tailor interactions down the road. Or in the middle, this is from the Rugby World Cup final, where All Blacks used it to get fans to engage, to where they would basically pick out where they think the ball is in the photo. And again, good way, kind of fun way to have fans engaged. And then the last one on the right was tied to a media company that just deployed a sweepstakes to give customers and participants a chance to win an opportunity to ask a player in the Australian Open any question that would be asked on air. And this generated thousands and tens of thousands of entries, where somebody, a fan, would have to enter. But it's valuable information for that marketer to gather, but it's also fun and meaningful and engaging for the fan. And then lastly, just two more quick examples. Often what our customers will do is they'll send out triggered emails based on an event. And on the left-hand side is an example of what a media company did, where after there was a visit to a site, an email went out. But as you can see, these particular experiences, while there's a lot to it, would get that customer engaged, picking out options that they like, or clothing or colors or styles that they prefer, which again feeds that customer profile, which can drive, as you can imagine, so much. And then the last one, an example of progressive profiling, helped a company that manufactures candles do customer research, because they were able to learn about scents that customers like and candles that customers like, and so forth. So it helps them learn about what products to go to market with, but it also helps them learn about what particular customers prefer. So the moral of the story there is all of that zero-party data that's so important now, that's captured, should go into a single accessible view of the customer and a customer profile that the marketer has access to, where they can plan out analytically driven journeys like you see here on this slide, just kind of reading left to right, where you can create journeys that are unique to customers as unique as they are. And there's certainly value in doing so, and taking this data-driven approach, using that zero-party data, where you can drive more revenue and growth through personalization, gain marketing efficiency gains, because you have the latest and greatest information and details about your customers so you can do personalization at scale without spanning all these different potential data sources. And then lastly, those examples that I shared with you help you create what's called a value exchange, to where some of those examples are fun. So think of the examples of the fan clicking on the different options. That's value for that fan to feel a part of that team that they so long to see in a stadium. But the value that the football club gets is a little more information about that fan. So think through a value exchange that you can create with your customers. All right, Chris. So that's. Oh, actually, I have one more slide. So I went through a lot of content pretty quickly in this chat, but if you want to learn more, especially about those experiences, use the QR code or the URL on the left-hand side. And then also there's a white paper you could download and access to where you can learn about what to do with that data once you capture it. So what good is it if you don't do anything with it? So take a data-driven approach once you're able to start capturing that zero-party data.
Thank you, Bruce. That's great. So we're tight for time. I think we'll just try and wrap that there. I'm interested to see the poll results. I think we had a decent number of people hitting the 6 or more, which I think Bruce, you flagged was about average. So 1, 3, 4, 6. It's interesting. I think in the unknown space there are a lot more. We see sort of 12 to 15. We have another poll question that can fire up, but let's just skip on to the questions if we can. So I think we have James with us.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks, Bruce. That was a really, really good session. I have a quick question, and it will only take a couple of seconds to answer from both of you, I hope. What is the best learning you've both taken during the pandemic to customer growth?
Yeah, awesome question. So I was looking at this for travel yesterday in another session. So China has had it's further along in that process, and hyperlocal and social appears to be the winning combination. So making your targeting more digital where you can, taking advantage of that opportunity, and taking advantage of people's increased use of social networks and their increased loyalty. The other sort of interesting data from that is loyalty for new brands appears to be sticky. So that's excellent news for us. And the last point I'd make on that is, on-demand TV or TV Plus or OTT, depending on how you want to describe it, there's huge amounts of inventory available there. The cost per 1,000 impressions is about half the cost if you were buying that in linear TV. And there's excellent opportunity to buy that inventory really effectively and efficiently. We've got some studies showing 87% reduction in cost per acquisition. So I would say be where your customers are locally, hyper-locally. Yeah, that's the way to go.
And I would just add to that real quickly from my perspective too is, definitely along the lines of loyalty, we're seeing a lot of brands actually thinking through loyalty programs, something that they never even thought about in the past, but are now rethinking because there's even more of an emphasis on needing to know who their customers are. Like restaurants are a good example where we see a lot of traction around loyalty. And then also the way marketers want to personalize and tailor engagement, where there's a need to be a little more empathetic and humanizing in how they engage with a brand and understanding, which is reflective of the last 8 months or so.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for that, Bruce. Thanks, Chris. One final question, because we do have a hard stop. And I know I'll get in trouble. How do you guys effectively link the value of digital marketing? Where is it possible to track interaction with sales that potentially are not linked to the digital journey to show the influence that the digital element has had on that sale? Let's try and wrap this one up. Hopefully, like maybe a minute between you.
Okay.
Because I know
Chris, I'll let you bring it home. Go for it. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. I can pick that up. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So we have within our modeling essentially an equivalent to an econometrics function. So we have, and we actually have case studies on this. We have the capability to join offline. So that includes ERP data, so store data, and the way it's joined and I should say also linear TV, linear radio, out of home, those can be joined as well. Because we have this kind of unique visit level measurement, we can join where those geolocations overlap, where the time overlaps with an ad. And what our model is actually doing is understanding if that customer's engagement level is changing as expected or not. And where it changes as expected, then the ad is stitched in. And similarly, where we see conversion volumes changing offline, and that's joined back to the ad activity, it's joined in there where it matches to what is predicted by the model. So it's like having a live econometric study running on your data all the time. It's really powerful. It's cool tech. We've definitely got stuff that people can read and get into it more. So there we go.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. Did you have another poll that you wanted to bring up? Did it get asked at the beginning? Did you have some results you wanted to show before we drop off?
We did. Let's see. Sufficient visibility of touch points to engage with your customers. We've got a majority no, 56% saying we don't have visibility, but just shy of 45% saying they do. So there we are. Hopefully there's some interesting takeaways from that today.
Brilliant. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you to you both. Thank you to the audience for the questions. And please, everyone, join us for the next session. You will get a pop-up when I disappear. So thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Our pleasure. Take care.
Cheers.